Peace and blessings. Welcome back to another episode of Her Mind is Beautiful. My name is Melissa Renee with BellaMinded.com, and I'm doing a little rebranding or going a little deeper when it comes to my episodes of Her Mind is Beautiful podcast. So I really want to center this podcast around really going deep and really working on or helping you all work on certain things that could allow us to tap into our feminine energy, allow us to have better connections with everyone else. Okay? So, welcome once again to Her Mind is Beautiful. This is the safe space for you to come back to being soft, your strength, your creativity, all of those great things. Just being your sacred, authentic self. And today's conversation that we're going to delve into is about clarity. And we're going to clarify the difference between femininity and feminine energy, because I realized looking on social media, listening to the conversations in regards to femininity, those two words or terms are constantly being used interchangeably, even though they aren't the same. As I like to say it, red is to pink as feminine energy is to femininity. Shouts out to Alice Walker for that one, because that's where I got it from when she used an analogy of feminism versus womanism. And she said, feminism is to womanism as lavender is to purple. And if you understand the content of that, then you'll know that without purple, there is no lavender. Okay, now that's a whole nother discussion of itself. So we're not going to get into that one yet. If that's a conversation y'all would want to get to on this podcast, we can definitely do that. Y'all just let me know by hitting it in the comments and pressing like before I really go in and delve more into this conversation. Okay, I'm gonna hit the intro, slide the intro in, and while I'm doing that, please make sure y'all like, please make sure y'all subscribe if you have enjoyed any of the following episodes that I posted, or are uploaded. And yeah, make sure you join the conversations in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts and share it with a friend. And let's just go ahead and get into it. So we are back. Did y'all like? Okay now. So like I said, I'm doing kind of a, I don't want to say rebranding, because we're still sticking to topics that center around Black women. But I also realized that this is a great opportunity and a great tool for us to really dig deep and really get the healing done. Y'all, excuse me if y'all hear quacking and all of that in the background. It's the frogs, baby. That's dope. So excuse my frogs, but looking at what it means, like, y'all know I'm a science girly. I'm all about pulling symbolism out of things and hearing these frogs right now, and then reading what the representation of frog means. It means transformation, fertility, and new beginnings. And that's just what we are going into in this journey. And that's what we're diving into when we get clarity finally on the two. First, what I want to do is just kind of get a distinction between each word, femininity and feminine energy, because like I said in the intro, it's always used so interchangeably, like it's the same thing. Feminine energy is the same thing as femininity, and where they operate in the same circle, they aren't necessarily the same. So let's get into the definition of femininity. I will say that in this society, femininity has been a social construct to define and label and kind of keep a box around women as far as how we should represent ourselves, how we should act, kind of making us feel like if we don't do these things, we can't be feminine or we can't possess or have a level of femininity about us. So let's get into the definition. The first definition of femininity is often shaped by beauty standards, fashion, appearance, softness, caretaking roles, and etc. It's a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles generally associated with women and girls. Femininity can be understood as socially constructed, and there is also some evidence that some behaviors considered feminine are influenced by both cultural factors and biological factors. Another meaning also saying soft, nurturing, emotional, communicative, not having power, not being in charge of decision making, and largely being secondary, not primary. So do y'all get what I mean with the social construct and the concepts of what they have placed on being feminine and what's femininity? I definitely do agree that femininity can carry the traits and characteristics of being soft, of being nurturing. I don't necessarily I'm a little conflicted when it comes to beauty standards in a sense, but I will say that for me, I've always associated femininity from an aesthetic uh, way. It's not so much what somebody wears or what a woman wears, but how she wears it. Because you could wear a big old baggy sweatshirt and the way you wear it can definitely give a sense of femininity. I don't think femininity can just be placed in like a piece of garment or some clothes or in that nature. I do think that femininity is it's an aura, it's a vibe, it's something within you. But we'll dig deeper into that. But I do want to, however, acknowledge how when it comes to femininity and Black women, how we've been taken out of the conversation. I do feel like society has tried to strip us of being defined as feminine or being the poster child or the face or just the representation in any form or fashion of femininity. And we see that all the time when Black women are being compared to men in so many different categories. As far as looks, we've heard people refer to Michelle Obama as looking like a man or being masculine. Tiana Taylor is another one. Oh, she looks like a man. They did it to Ari Lennox. They've said it about Meg Thee Stallion. Like in so many cases, we've heard these things being said. Even me, like I've been on social media and I've even had trolls or what have you try to say, oh, you look manly, you look rough. Never gave that. Never gave that. Put on the glasses because it never read. But anyways, but this is the way this society has, which I feel like tries to deny us a level of femininity because it tries to box us in to saying like we have to present ourselves this way and look this way and do these things in order to be looked at or perceived as feminine or having femininity. We see it all the time. And I feel like that's a deep rooted part as well of systemic racism and white supremacy. But it's just not even the looks. It's even It even comes down to the way that they talk about the way that we behave. Oh, you're loud. Oh, you ghetto. And it's always in reference to us being when we're vocal and we speak up and speak our mind. And it's a way to tell you that, oh, speaking up, speaking your mind, it's not what a feminine woman does. You are showing traits and signs of being masculine. And you could tell if we go back to the definitions, like they said, you don't lead. You are largely secondary. You don't sit in a leading role. So anytime as a Black woman that we are speaking up and we're talking, and we don't have to be loud. We can talk very low. We can speak, with our 12-inch voices, but it's not the loudness. It's not the volume that disrupts people or that makes people feel uncomfortable. It's the things we say out of our mouths. And those things that do not take away my femininity. It actually shows how I possess my femininity in the sense that I have confidence. I'm confident and I don't have to shrink myself or make myself small to make somebody else feel comfortable or feel present or seen or heard in the room. And speaking of that, that's why I do have my disagreement sometimes when I see a lot of these Black feminine coaches, and I'm not taking anything away from them being Black femininity coaches, because there are some things that I can take away from what they speak about, as far as, how in certain contexts, the way we carry ourselves as Black women or women, period. But I do think sometimes they also continue to perpetuate the rooted racism in femininity, as far as saying, like, you have to act like this, you have to say this is you being in your femininity, this is that. And it's still perpetuating that. And it's saying to us that, we have to shrink ourselves or mold ourselves into what society would accept, what these men will accept. And I feel like that doesn't help, because that is not the root of what femininity is. That to me has more to do with the aesthetics of femininity, because at the end of the day, like, you can play the part of looking soft, of looking like you're a nurturer, but that's on the outside. That's the aesthetics, like what's within. You cannot be nurturing just because you do servitude. Like, that doesn't mean that you're a nurturer just because you're willing to serve a man. Oh, I make his bath, I cook his food, I do this, I do that. That doesn't necessarily mean you take on the inner qualities of being a nurturer. You understand, if you're a mother, or even if you take care of a pet, one thing of being a nurturer is that you can sense when your child or when that pet that you have, like, you can sense when, okay, you're sick. You can't, okay, oh no, you can't eat that. That's going to make you sick. Or you can't do that. Like, in a sense of being a nurturer, you're also there to take on preventative measures, to be a protector, because women, we are protectors as well. So if you don't have the mentality to be able to know that part of nurturing isn't just serving somebody, let's look at the meaning of nurturing. I'm so glad I said let's look at the meaning of nurturing and nurture. So the meaning of nurture is to care for and encourage the growth or development of. Let me read that again. That got me excited. Let me take a sip of my water. To nurture is to care for and encourage the growth or development of your pet, your dog, you, whoever. That's nurture. So getting back to my point, because that was my point, to say that servitude and nurturing is not the same thing. Because you can serve someone to the point of their own demise, to the point of their own detriment. Meaning you're just serving and giving, even though that's not good for them. Which basically what I'm saying is lack of boundaries. Lack of boundaries. And you're going to realize and understand how lack of boundaries, or I should say having boundaries, how that relates to your feminine energy. But let's stay right here for a minute. So you thinking that, oh, you servitude, I serve you, I give you a bath, I give you this, I give you that, does not make you a nurturer. Because like we read in that definition, a nurturer is someone who cares for. And what else? And encourages the growth and the development. So if you're in a relationship with a man and you're not encouraging growth and development, you're allowing that man to stay in the box of his stunted mentality, or his immaturity, or his lack of emotional intelligence, and you're leaving him in that, you are not a nurturer, sis. You are an enabler. And you are not operating in your femininity. You're not showing femininity. So when these femininity coaches are saying, do this, do that, do that, do that, that actually still is you operating in your masculine energy, because it's all about outwardness. It's all about action. It's all about doing. It's not correlating and having anything to do with what's within. Because that's where your femininity is going to come from. It's going to come from it within. Because femininity to me is an expression. It's an expression. And it's an expression based on how you tap into your feminine energy. So at the end of the day, you can put on the aesthetics and you can do everything that these femininity coaches are telling you to do. But once the layers get peeled back, once things start to become unpacked, then the core of you operating in your masculine is still going to be there, because you can't mask who you are internally. That's there, and it's going to project. It's going to come out. I wasn't even expecting that. That was a word right there. I wasn't even going in that direction, but because that came out, that's how I know this topic and this conversation is being divinely guided. It's being divinely guided, and I know this is a conversation that I'm supposed to have, because that word with that nurturing, I got chills on me. That's a divine message. That wasn't even in my plans. The last thing I would say on this, when it comes to like the Black femininity coaches, is, like I say, it's just wrapped in a lot of aesthetics, and it's always associated with being docile, being submissive, taking the back seat. But it's a way where you can lead and you don't have to be aggressive. It's called being assertive. You can be assertive. Assertive doesn't take away from your femininity. Assertive is simply being able to say no. Assertive is simply being able to have boundaries and stay standing on your boundaries and not allowing people to run and push all over you. But this association with femininity, oh, you do this, it's like it is centered around this male gaze of pleasing your man. And I feel like that is the wrong context, and that is the wrong way to guide Black women into really finding their femininity, really tapping into their feminine energy, and really having this soft life that is basically trending all the time on social media. Even when you're talking about submissiveness, I spoke about this a whole long time ago. I feel like there's even a misunderstanding when it comes to submissiveness. Submissiveness does not mean I become a doormat and you walk all over me. For me, for instance, like if you watch my TikTok, I spoke about like me starting Monday, starting my, which y'all will be seeing it will be today, starting my 30-day tapping into my feminine energy journey with the Soft Girl workbook. And I'm starting Monday, and I'm doing that because, like I said, it is this resistance that I've been feeling for a while, for some time now. And I know that's a sign that I'm not operating in my feminine energy. I know that's what that sign is, because feminine energy, things flow, you attract. It's not this resistance of this pull and tug or tug and pull. It's not pushing, it's not proving, it's just being. And the fact that I've been feeling that as of lately, I know it's time for me to realign, tap in, recenter, and get back in touch with my feminine energy, or connect with my feminine energy. When it says submit to the authority and will, sometimes submitting to the authority and will is submitting to the universe, letting go. Sometimes submit to authority and will may be just simply submitting to the authority of your purpose, what you're supposed to be doing, your authentic self, who you truly are to the core, the will of your purpose. So when I read that, I look at it in the context of submission as far as like a letting go, relinquishing control. And sometimes you do have to relinquish control and let things go. But it doesn't mean that I have to be a doormat. It doesn't mean that I have to lack boundaries. It doesn't mean that I have to lack standards. It just means that there are times when you have to learn when to let go. There are times when you have to be okay with someone else taking the lead, someone who may have the experience, who may have the knowledge. It's okay for you to let them take the lead so that they can show you or teach you things that you might not know. So even in the context of how they talk about submission, it comes off in a patriarchal way. Excuse me if I didn't say that correctly, which still feeds into this social construct of trying to diminish and minimize and have women be in this docile, I serve you, I'm here for you, the men are the center of the universe ideology. And I just can't subscribe to that. So whereas I don't think it's with any ill intent, I just think that it's something deeper there. It's not just being feminine and knowing how to bat your eyes and cross your legs and sit like this and show a little bit of cleavage. That's performance. That's performing. And we can all perform, but how long is it going to last? At what point are you going to say, like, I'm tired of performing. I'm tired of doing this dance. Because we all know when you're not operating in who you really are, it gets exhausting. You get tired. You get overwhelmed. Because that's not who you are. That's not who you are. And you thinking it's everything else in the world. You thinking it's your job. You thinking it's your home life. You thinking it's your family, your friends. But no, you're tired of playing a role that is not you. That's what you're tired of. And to me, it also feeds into manipulation when I see a lot of these femininity coaches. You want that reign, you want that lifestyle, then you got to do this. It's like, that's just manipulation, because once again, you're telling Black women how to perform in order to gain this. And that's not, to me, really dropping jewels for us. That's not really helping us. Because once you get that life, once you get that man, you realize like this life ain't crap if I can't enjoy it being who I am. Now you're trying to find an exit strategy of how you gonna take this lifestyle with you and be yourself and be happy. But why do all of that? Why go through all of that when you can just be yourself from the beginning, when you can attract the man you're supposed to attract, when you truly express your femininity and truly tap into your feminine energy? Now we get to the part of what is feminine energy, because that's part of what you're saying. Well, if it ain't if it's a difference, what's the difference? So I gave you one example, which solely has to do with the social construct of what this society has deemed to be femininity, because it has more to do with classism, racism, and all of those good things than it has to do with actually giving you the real, true depth meaning of what femininity is, right? So here we have feminine energy. So I'm going to read this for you. Feminine energy as an internal sacred essence, fluidity, creativity, intuition, stillness, surrender, receptivity. These are all the characteristics and traits of our feminine energy. So when we're operating in our feminine energy, we are fluid. That means we flow. It's just natural. It's just a natural flow and go. Like, we're not chasing, we're attracting. That's why I always say, never chase, only attract. And if you think about it, when you listening to these femininity coaches, when you're listening to these femininity coaches give you all these tips of do this, do that, like I said, it's not operating. You're still operating in your masculine energy because they're still telling you to do. They're not telling you how to attract. No, you don't have to do all those things to attract someone. That's not attracting. You're chasing. You're setting up things and setting things in a way to get something. But when you truly possess and operate in your feminine energy, all you have to do is just be who you are, and you're going to attract that man that you're supposed to attract. You don't gotta do all of that manipulation. Oh, do this, bat your eye like this, turn like that. Like, you don't have to do all those performances. You can just be yourself. That's the fluidity. Just being. Just simply being. And it's true, because even when I was young and I didn't understand, I had no idea about what a feminine energy was. I had no concept on any of these things. When I met my husband, I was myself. Like, I was just me. It wasn't hard. I didn't do the most. I was just myself. You know what I'm saying? I didn't act like, plain example, my husband was like, well, I don't like girls who do this, and this. I didn't sit there and was like, oh, wow, well, let me stop doing that. Let me stop drinking. No, I was like, well, I drink. I do. And I understand that you don't like that. I understand that that's a turn off for you. Like, I'm not here to convince you to date a woman who drinks alcohol. I'm not here to do that. But yes, I do tend to, have an occasional drink, recreationally, socially. Yes, that's what I do. I stayed who I was. Now, in that moment, I didn't know I was operating in my feminine energy at that moment to just simply be myself. Because I say this to everybody when it comes to meeting my husband. Before I met my husband, it was just random guys who I was talking to, who I met, who I tried to, go on a date with, like, I tried dating. This was my little segment of time. I was just trying to date, and I was meeting guys and, okay, let's link up and let's date. But it just wasn't it for me. I wasn't feeling it. I was not feeling any of them. I don't care how much money they said they had. I don't care how much they could have ice me, dice me, whatever the case may be. It just wasn't it. And I had a conversation with the Most High. I had a conversation with the universe. And I said, if you can just bring somebody in my life, allow me to meet someone who loves me for me, who wants me for me, and vice versa. I want them for them. Like, that's all I need. That's what I told the Most High. I just need a man who can allow me to be myself and love me for me. I said these precise words, and I will not lie to you. Within some weeks, I met my husband on social media. MySpace at the time, actually. Was talking through the messaging. Finally, after talking through the messaging, exchanged numbers, talked on the phone for a while. Finally, after talking on the phone for a while, met up. So that's my point. I didn't have to go and be like, oh, I need to act like this. I got to do this. I got to do that. No, I just was me. Yeah, creativity, intuition. Even using that example, my intuition seeped in. Like, I knew when I was dating and talking to these certain guys, like, that's not it. I don't care what they presented. I don't care how beautiful of a life they show. If it wasn't it, if it didn't resonate with me, I let it go. My intuition, I listen to myself. Another characteristic, what they say, stillness. Stillness. This still stems from just flowing and letting go and letting be. Being still. Not trying to chase, not trying to come up with this with a scheme that Todd planned. You're not trying to plan all the traps. You are just you. You are just in the moment. You are present. Surrender being another word. Once again, submission, just allowing. And receptivity, being able to receive, being able to open yourself up to receive. And for some women, that's receiving love, receiving a compliment, receiving a man who sees you for you and wants to tell you how pretty you are, wants to write you and say good morning. Like, I see women on there who be like, oh, I don't want no good morning text. I want, oh, what you just write me good morning for? Why not? Is it gonna kill you? Like, that's a lack of being receptive. What's wrong with telling you good morning? What's wrong with texting you? Like, for me, and maybe I just smell the roses too much. Maybe I'm just too optimistic. But if a man is texting you 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and saying good morning, you are clearly on his mind. He thought of you. And some women might, he probably do that for all the women in his phone. Okay, let's say he got 5 women. He probably got 20, but out of the 25 of you all were on his mind enough to say good morning. And trust me, I don't think men are that dedicated to just be waking up and just sending good morning texts to just a slew of women. That's a lot. That's a lot to juggle. And sometimes it be our own mentality that block a lot of things or shift our reality in such a negative perspective. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with receiving a good morning text? Here's the thing. I'll give you an example. If a man texts you good morning and you feel like, oh, he probably texts four other women good morning. Okay, let's say he texts 5 women because y'all single. He's single, you single, y'all dating. Okay, y'all don't got no ties. He texts 5 women, you included, and said, good morning, love, good morning, queen. You know, how's your morning going so far? And out of the 5 women, you're the only one who texts back with a response because you were receptive to the good morning. And you text back and you said, it's going well. Thank you. I appreciate you texting me this morning. I appreciate knowing that I was on your mind first thing in the morning. Let's say you were the only one who responded that. Now the 4 other women responded was like, let's say 2 didn't even respond and 1 responded with the emoji. Who you think he about to text back and continue to talk to? You. And that text may even include like, oh, that's what's up. I'm so glad I could make your day. You know what? I want to take you to breakfast. You see what I'm saying? It's being open. It's being receptive. It's being not guarded. And y'all know I talked to us about how guarded we come off. You know what I'm saying? The lack of being vulnerable. The whole point is if you like a guy, and he texts you in the morning, good morning. If you like him and you're interested in him, why are you worrying about who else he texting? You don't know if he texting somebody or not. And if he is, why is that your concern in the moment? Why can't you be present and in the moment and be receptive and open to that man waking up in the morning and texting you good morning? If you opened that and that made you feel good, why can't you just receive that and say, you know what, thank you. I appreciate that. You made my day. My day started off so well with you doing that. I appreciate that. You, in a sense, receiving that and showing your appreciation and gratitude, that in turn makes him feel seen and heard. It makes him feel like, oh man, she feeling me. A set of qualities and characteristics associated with creativity, we said that, nurturing, we talked about that, compassion, and intuition. It's considered a vital aspect of both men and women. See, a lot of times too with us, we'll talk about how, oh, men ain't tapped into their feminine energy. How they gonna tap into their feminine energy and you ain't tapped into your feminine energy? Remember, I told you it's about attracting. But if you're operating in your masculine energy, you're going to attract a man who's solely operating in his masculine energy. If you are operating in your masculine and your feminine and you are balanced, then you're going to attract a man who as well is balanced, who can tap into his feminine energy. But you can't have all this masculine energy and then think that you're just going to attract a guy who could tap into his feminine energy. You can't tap into your feminine energy, sis. You ain't operating in your feminine energy, sis. You can't even be receptive to a good morning text. It got you upset and bothered. But do y'all see where I'm going with this? It's considered a vital aspect of both men and women, regardless of gender identity. And it's seen as complementary force to masculine energy. It works hand in hand. So I'm not saying don't have any masculinity, don't go, don't do, don't take action. I'm just saying that it has to be a balance. You can't solely operate in logic and reason. That's my problem. That's what I've been doing. You can't solely operate in logic and reason. You have to pull from your intuition. You have to pull from your compassion, your nurturing. You need them both, the external and the internal. External to express the internal. But when you don't have the internal, then all you're going to do is just be expressing what? Because there's no connect. You're not going to be expressing you. You're not going to be expressing what's within you because it's a disconnect there. So you just expressing. You're just something I realized with myself. You're just like a robot. You're just doing. Just operating. Which is often associated with logic and action. I told you that. Positive emotional qualities such as empathy and patience and beneficial traits like creativity, good communication skills, and high self-esteem. So even though I'm sitting here saying, well, maybe I just look at the rose-colored glasses, or I just see the glass too full, I'm too optimistic. But in reality, I'm empathetic. I'm not a man. You know what I'm saying? But I'm empathetic to say that, well, I know, like, For somebody to wake up in the morning and text you, you clearly are on their mind. It's clearly something about you that made them say, hey, I want to text her. I don't care if it's like, she looks so fine, she looks so good. Like, it's a starting point. And I know that might seem shallow, but everything is needed. Like, you can't have a sunny day without rain, right? You can't have sunshine without the night, without darkness. So you can't have depth without there being some sort of shallowness, right? Let me break it down. So for instance, let's say with me working out and getting into shape. A lot of times, essentially, when people start to want to work out and get into shape and start eating good, it's not because they want to eat healthy. I just want to eat right. I just want to eat some good food. I just want to eat right because I want my body to. No, a lot of times, most of us start off like, I look out of shape. I've gained too much weight. It comes from a level of vanity, shallowness. Now, as we start to, work out and eat better, we start to feel better internally. And then that gives us the motivation to keep going because, oh man, like, I look good, but now I feel good. Like, I could climb a flight of stairs. I don't have to breathe hard. I can park in the middle of the parking lot and not complain and feel out of breath by the time I get inside of the store. So just because something starts from a shallow place doesn't mean that that's where it's going to end. So we can't just assume or judge. And it's the same thing with women. We can't say that about men when we start from a shallow place. When that dude came and talked to you, he looked good to you. It wasn't because you just knew he was just deep and had this great intellect about him. No, it was because he had some nice smelling cologne on and it smelled so good. And it got your pheromones all worked up. So you gave him the number. And with that, you was like, oh, okay. Got good conversation. He's smart. Okay. Oh, he's a gentleman. He's hospitable. So let's not be so quick to judge things to say that because, they're doing it just for this or they're doing this for that. Well, yeah, we typically start off from a shallow place. That's why it's called growth. Like, I don't know you. I'm not psychic. I can't like, okay, this is a good one right here because I could tell. Like, it's going to come from something outwardly, aesthetics. Okay. So you have good communication and that's needed because I think we as women think sometimes because men don't like to talk and communicate and express things, then it makes us seem like we're just better communicators. Not really, because we can use a lot of word salads a lot of times. We do a lot of talking and talking and talking, and sometimes we're still not expressing ourselves. Like when I recently did the bear versus the man video. Y'all got go back and check that out, the bear versus the man video right now to gain the context of what I'm saying. It was a part in there when I said, we wouldn't want to be we couldn't even be in the forest with the bear because we talking too much. Like, bear, why you trying to attack me? Bear, why you doing this? Like, doing too much, because when it comes to communicating, we might communicate and be quick to communicate more than a man, but it doesn't mean that it's effective communication. It doesn't mean that we're actually saying what we need. Just sitting there talking about what you don't like. I don't like you doing it. I don't like you doing, I don't like this. Why you do that? On and on and on. Yeah, you communicating that things, but are you telling him what it is that you need from him? Are you saying, listen, this is what I need? And are you listening to him? When he responds, are you listening? Are you gaining understanding? Because that's effective communication too. Communication ain't just talking. It's talking, it's listening. It's a variable of things that makes effective communication. A lot of us are walking around, we say we got high self-esteem because once again, it's performance. We'll walk the walk and talk the talk, but behind closed doors, a lot of us are very insecure. That's why we can't get along with each other as women. That's why we feel threatened. That's why we trying to low-key be competitive with one another, talking about each other behind each other back, because we're not in a place of having high self-esteem. If we were, then it would be less cattiness that goes on between us, because we would be very secure in who we are. It wouldn't be any need to talk about somebody else. Like, if it's not for the benefit of having a conversation with them, unpacking things with them, gaining understanding with them, it's no need. Feminine energy, naming all of those traits, is operating within. It has nothing to do that relates with aesthetics. It's about you trusting yourself. And I say this all the time because this is a lesson that I learned, and I don't know if people get it, but like, when it comes to trust, like a lot of times with us as women, when we say, I don't trust men, you know why? Because you don't trust yourself. That's why you don't trust men. You don't trust you. You don't trust your judgment. Because if you trust yourself, you would never doubt yourself in choosing a man that isn't going to meet your standards, or respect who you are, love who you are. Like, you don't trust them because you don't trust yourself. It all goes back to self, because you are choosing this man. You don't have to deal with this man if you don't want to. This man can come to you, and if you trust your intuition and if you trust yourself, if you knew when yourself was like, that ain't it. Just like I told you and gave you an example before I met my husband. Like, I was dating, I was talking to guys, but I knew it wasn't it. And I didn't waste my time. It wasn't any point. Why am I sitting here carrying on, having conversations with you and talking to you when I know you ain't it? This ain't what I want. There's no need for us to carry on this conversation or go any further, because I know it's not going to go anywhere. I don't want it to go anywhere. So as quickly as it began, is as quickly as it was fun. I mean, it was, nice, I guess, but this isn't going to work. And I moved on because I listened to my intuition. I trust myself to know that this wasn't going to work. And in trusting myself, knowing that it wasn't going to work, I attracted who I was supposed to be with. And my husband isn't imperfect by a long shot. It's an inside joke with me and him. Oh, man. Whew, I cracked myself up. But I'm not perfect either. I'm far from perfect as well. The whole point about it is that in our imperfections, like, without my husband being in my life, I wouldn't be in the place I am right now. I wouldn't be the person I am. I don't know if I would have even started a spiritual journey or a self-discovery journey. I don't know. I might have. I don't know if it would have looked like this, though. So, like, my husband came into my life for a reason. Because as much as we want to romanticize relationships just to be this fairy tale, he gave me the lifestyle, he's the Prince Charming, we go on trips, we have the family, relationships are work because it's a lesson you have to learn within that relationship, because that's what's going to help you both evolve and grow. You all met each other for a reason. So a lot of times, if it doesn't work out with somebody that you meet in a relationship, it's because one or both of you all were not willing to learn what it is that you needed to learn from one another, because that person has some strengths in areas where you are weak. And that person has some weakness in areas where you are strong. And y'all are supposed to evolve from each other, or whenever that chapter ends, you are supposed to at least walk away from each other being better off as a individual than you were before you met that person. If you the same or you worse, then that you could sit here and reminisce all day long about the great times. But what happened to the growth, sis? Why haven't y'all evolved all the time that y'all was together? Bump about all the things you had. I wasted all these years. You wasted all those years if it was nothing that you gained from that relationship that can allow you to grow. That's wasted years. Bump the material things. You can get that again. But if you are the same, if you got the same mentality, the same mindset you had before, after dating this person, was that relationship really, really what you thought it was? I said in the beginning that I like to, when I speak on the differences between feminine energy and femininity, I like to use the analogy red is to pink as feminine energy is to femininity. So this is where I'm going to tell you where they are different. They do sit in the same family in the same pool. And it's because without feminine energy, there would be no femininity. Like the color red is like a primary color, right? It's a root color, meaning that red is like you can't get this and make red. But you could take red and make something else. Like pink. You can take red, add some white to it, and you will get pink. You understand what I'm saying? So feminine energy is the red. It's the root. It's the core. Femininity comes from feminine energy. If you don't tap into your feminine energy, if your feminine energy is not aligned, if it's not centered, you are not expressing femininity. What you're doing is performing what you think femininity is or what it represents. Because you can't have femininity without being tapped into your feminine energy. Femininity is a byproduct of your feminine energy. You can act soft, but the feminine energy is being soft. You can act compassionate, but the feminine energy is being compassionate. You can act like you have self-esteem, but the feminine energy is having self-esteem. You get what I'm saying? You can act like you know, but feminine energy is knowing. You just in the know. So that's the context of what I mean when I say that analogy. And I want y'all to remember that. Remember that. Anytime you hear someone talking about femininity, remember that red is to pink as feminine energy is to femininity. I can't possess or have femininity without being able to tap in and possess operate in my feminine energy. You can't have one without the other. So anything that you're doing that you feel is femininity, it's not femininity. It's you acting and performing like it's femininity, but it's not the essence of femininity. Because when you operate in your feminine energy, the femininity is just an outwardly expression of that. It's what other people are going to see, right? Because when you think about it, your feminine energy is internal. It's within, right? You can't see it. You can't look in my body and be like, okay, that's that feminine energy. No, you can't. How is someone going to know that you're operating and tapping into your feminine energy? They're going to know by the way you express it with your femininity. As within, so without. As above, so below. So when I am operating in balance in my feminine energy, it's going to show through my femininity. And it's not going to be the way I cross my legs. It's not going to be the way I bat my eye. It's not going to be the way I pout my lips. It's not going to be that way. It's just going to, it's in me, not on me. You see what I'm saying? It's in me, not on me. It's just going to naturally show. It's going to naturally be out there. I'm going to naturally be like, I'm going to be able to talk to a man in a way that's soft, in the way that's seductive, not because someone told me this is how you have to talk to a man, but because in that moment, I know how to not be guarded. I know how to be vulnerable. I know how to be receptive. I know how to feel confident in my sensuality, in my feminine energy. So I can talk to him this way. I can express my sensuality and my sexuality in a way that is assertive, soft, compassionate, alluring, attractive, because I'm just simply expressing who I am, me, how I feel, what I've gained or connected to internally. So I hope this clarifies the confusion of how society has conditioned us once again and embedded in our minds, in our neurons, how or what femininity is. Because it's mistaken, like I say, it's mistaken performance for power. Right? Because they say, oh, if you do this, then a man will give you this. If you act like this, that's performing. And you're performing in order to gain something, which to me is manipulation, because that's not who you are. That's not truly in you. That's something you're doing in order to gain something that you want. And that's not being authentic. And that's not power. That's manipulation. It's a difference. See, when you operate in your feminine energy, that's authentic. So that's the power. It's power in that. It's power knowing that as a woman, I don't have to manipulate, or I don't have to move and act and act like a man to get what I want. It is power in just me being in my divine feminine, knowing who I am, being soft and realizing that that's not a weakness. That's not a hindrance against me. I don't care what man tries to look at it and tries to make out that, oh, she's just a woman. Don't matter, because I know what I possess, and I know that I have power and magic within being a Black woman that you don't see coming. And sometimes you have to allow people to be in their own ignorance. Sometimes you have to allow people to underestimate you. And that's the mistake we make, because then we start trying to operate in masculine energy by trying to prove something. Oh, I'm a woman, but I can do this and that, and try to prove it. You don't have to prove if you're operating in your feminine energy. You just allow and be and attract. That's it. You want to doubt me? That's fine. Use it to your advantage. That's when you can become an alchemist. And how we become alchemists is when we pull from our feminine energy. We're able to allow ourselves to take the negative and transform it and transfer it into a positive, without having to, oh, I'm gonna show him, I'm gonna get all these accounts, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that, or I'm gonna work hard so I can get this money, so I can let him know I'm a big boss. But you allowing them to control the narrative. Now you're playing their game instead of you making them play yours. Centering the male gaze as an idea of what femininity is. Like, no. No, 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 no. Femininity is not centered in the male gaze and trying to get a man and this, that, and the third. Like, and that's why I say that's where the performance comes in, because if you are attracting, you're never chasing. If you are just simply being you, it's not a sense of feeling like you have to operate and move and do and act like this. You are simply just allowing yourself to be yourself and attracting. And you will see that happen when less of your attention is about trying to get a man's attention or get that male gaze. And it's more about just connecting with yourself and operating in who you are authentically. It's this idea that femininity is highly centered around getting men's attention. And it's not. You don't have to get a man's attention. It's going to come. Trust me. You will get it. It's going to happen on its own. You ain't got to do nothing. But because you solely operating in your masculine energy, you somehow have created the idea that your worth and your value is associated with a man looking at you, being attracted to you, wanting you, desiring you. And don't get me wrong, I was once there. So I'm not telling you anything that how I wasn't. I was once there too. I was. But no, I'm learning through time to like see myself for who I know I am. Like with a male gaze or not a male gaze, I don't know. I'm not paying no attention to it. I'm in my own world doing my thug dizzle, baby. Okay? Doing my thug dizzle. And I know some of y'all might be like, oh, well, you got a husband already. So, of course, you don't care this, that, and the third. It is some women out here who got men and they still pine for the attention of other men because it has nothing to do with having a man. It has everything to do with having self-esteem and valuing yourself and knowing your self-worth. But if you associate your self-worth to male gaze, then yeah, you got a man, but that one man ain't gonna serve its purpose. You need all the men. You could have your man on your arm and you still need to walk in the room and feel like you got the attention of every man in the room because you are associating your worth with men looking at you, whether you want them or not. So it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what's going on internally. It has to do with you walking in the room and you not even noticing if a man looking or not. And it's the truth because like I'll go in the store with my husband. I'll be in the mall, wherever with my husband. And he'll tell me about guys looking. I have no clue in the world. And he'll say, oh, you ain't, cause you don't be paying attention to your surroundings and stuff like that. In some cases, I might be in my own world, not paying attention. But in a lot of cases, it's because I ain't thinking about like who looking and who ain't looking. It don't be crossing my mind at this point in my life because of the work I've done on myself. And I continue to do because it don't stop. Like I'm a human being. I'm a person too. I'm just here to help and assist y'all on what I went through so that you don't have to go through so much of the struggles that I had to go through, or you don't have to continue. I had to hit my head quite a few times on the wall. Hit. Like, like seriously, like I'd have been learning lessons 5 times. Just different ways. The same lesson I'm learning 5 times in 5 different ways. And I'm just trying to keep y'all from having to learn this lesson 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Don't pay me no attention. I don't know. He could be hitting on me. He could not be hitting on me. He could be flirting because my mind is not centered around equating my worth to what a man thinks or perceives me as. That kind of mindset of how making femininity be about this aesthetics and this performance and and prioritizing how you look, how you shape, how you act, being provocative, that's very harmful. And it's harmful because it takes the attention away from where it's supposed to be. And this is how we become disconnected from our feminine energy. This is how we detach, and now we're operating solely in our masculine energy because we're performing and we're doing and we're acting. And it leaves us burnt out because, like I said, you get tired of performing and acting. I don't think people understand. A lot of times it talks about mental illnesses and how it runs in families, and how it's genetic. But a lot of times the genetic comes from the fact that we aren't taught to love ourselves. We aren't taught to tap into who we are within. So because we're constantly being taught to perform, we gain a detachment from who we are, from our core. And constantly performing and not being yourself is mentally overwhelming and mentally draining. And then now you're depressed. Now you anxious. You know what I'm saying? Now you got highs and lows and no balance in between. And a lot of times we associate these things but we don't see that these things come internally from us, because we're so obsessed about looking soft and not about feeling safe with ourselves, trusting ourselves. We so obsessed about being chosen by somebody that we don't take the time to choose ourselves. See the rain? Coming down hard. Return all of this disconnected, feeling overwhelmed and not choosing ourselves and not feeling safe with ourselves. It just leaves us disconnected. Like I said, you can't tap into your intuition. That's why you're worrying and you having anxiety, because you don't know what voice to listen to that you're hearing in your head, because you're hearing so many. So you don't know what's your intuition and what's not. You lack creativity. You think you don't have creativity because I'm just not a creative person. No, you have creativity. You possess the ability to be creative. You just can't tap into it because you are not connected and tapped into your feminine energy. But the creativity is there. Lead to difficulty taking action. That's where that perfection come in for some of us. Oh, it ain't right. It got to be right. This ain't the time. This going on. I know, because I used to do that a lot. And that's why the universe is knocking my head between the washer and the dryer right now, because I took the time for so many years to make so many excuses. And now when I'm like, okay, I'm doing it this time, I'm going to see it through. It's when I get some of the most resistance and some of the heaviest lessons that I have to learn. But I can't stop. I can't give up. I can't let go. I have to see it through. And I have to learn how to balance it. And what's getting me through that is tapping into my feminine energy and a lack of follow through on ideas. A lot of y'all got some amazing, beautiful ideas out there, but you won't do them. You won't follow through. And that's a lot of the reasons why, because of you're not tapping into your feminine energy. So let's talk about practices that bring women back to their feminine energy. Because if you really want to truly possess femininity, if you really want to know how to have and possess this femininity and express it, it comes from tapping into your feminine energy. And how you get back to your feminine energy. And I say back because we all had it. We all was connected to it at one point in time, just like we were always connected to knowledge of self. But through conditioning, social engineering, through traumas, through triggers, through all of these things, we further disconnect and disconnect and disconnect again. Hence why we have to go through this journey of self-discovery and journey of finding who we are and connecting to who we are. So one thing that I started to have to do to connect back to my feminine energy, and I have to practice this intentionally every day. Even when I was setting up to do this video, I had to slow down because my mind was like, okay, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do, okay, you got this, you got that, you got that, okay, because we got to film, we got to do. And I had to say, wait, stop, Melissa, what are we rushing to film for? Why are we rushing? Let's take our time. Put your little makeup on, okay? Get in the vibe, get in the mindset, okay? Set your stuff up, all right? Got your notes, get your notes ready. Okay, now let's sit down and let's have a conversation. And let's talk and be you and be natural. And it's a whole hell of a lot better when I do it this way. Going into one of the things that I'm going to tell you how to help you slow down is meditation. That I know has really helped me to be able to sit here and talk and think and have a complete thought and say that complete thought without a whole bunch of uhs in between my words. Releasing control. Ooh, baby, this is hitting home for me. Now, if you sign up right now to Attract Your Tribe, you can get a free 7-day trial. Well, yeah, 7-day preview to the 30-day workbook. You can get 7 days for free. And that's the first week. And in that first week, that's basically what I'm getting you prepared to do, to release and let go of that masculine energy or that masculine overwhelm, like feeling like you got to be in control of everything all the time. Reality, I have to let go and release control and have trust in the fact that it's going to work itself out. It's going to work itself out. It's going to work itself out. That's really what the soft girl era is about. You want to live the soft life? You want to sit back and live the soft life? That's what it is. It's about not worrying. It's about not forcing. It's about not pushing. Get into nature. Get into nature. That's why it's called Mother Nature. Tap into that feminine energy with Mother Nature. Mother Nature. Trees, bird, all of that. Because I say why it's so connected with the feminine energy is because it's a flow. It's nothing forced. Everything is being what they are. They're not acting. A squirrel ain't acting like a squirrel. A bird ain't acting like a bird. A bird is a bird. A squirrel is a squirrel. A tree is not acting like a tree. It's a tree. And you don't see a squirrel trying to be a bird. You don't see a bird trying to be a squirrel. You don't see a lizard trying to be a mosquito or a butterfly. You don't see. Everything in nature is simply just being what they are. I'm going to end it on that note, but I'm going to ask some questions like, where in your life right now do you perform softness but feel rigid? Meaning like you do the soft things that your femininity coach told you to do, but it's still some rigidness there. Like it's still some inability to just fully let go and express that femininity. It's like it's some resistance and some hesitation there. Write that down. See how I said that? When you download the free 7-day feminine energy journal, when you download that and you start your 7-day journey, I want you then to ask this question. How did you feel in those 7 days of aligning yourself and getting back to your feminine energy, like becoming rooted in it? How did that make you feel? And if it made you feel great, then hey, let's go ahead and get that 30-day. Your femininity is beautiful, and I don't want y'all to stray away from that. But understand your feminine energy is power. And I'm not asking y'all to trade one over the other. I'm saying to embody them both. I'm saying you have no choice but to embody them both if you really tap into your feminine energy, because there is no femininity without the feminine energy. And when you tap into that feminine energy, you're going to be expressing femininity, not performing, not acting, but actually expressing it because it's in you, not on you. Okay. All right. So uh, make sure you go to bellaminded.com if you want to join my newsletter. Drop a newsletter every week. Also, if this resonated with you, make sure you leave a comment or a review below. Make sure you tell a sister and, have her come and join, and we could continue this conversations and continue these epiphanies and these discoveries over at the community at bellaminded.com/community. It was fun. I love y'all. Peace and blessings.